back.
Not yet.
Oh, we're back
again.
We have a special man guest with us today.
I know.
We don't have a whole lot of men on here, so I hope you're ready for this, Indra.
Only the very best men are
I was going to say I'm a whole lot of man, but maybe I shouldn't say that.
Okay, well, we might need to talk about that later.
Okay.
So let's introduce Mr. Indra. He is a lifetime spiritual seeker, a healer, a teacher, and offers life readings for clients on astrology and the Enneagram. I love these two topics. Personality are the main modalities that he shares.
Yeah, he's been studying astrology and spirituality for 50 years. He first learned of the Enneagram of Personality in 1999, and he uses these two modalities individually and in combination. His focus is to help clients to awaken, to wake up to who they really are. He works to help people to live beyond their conditioned stories and to live more in the moment.
Love it.
So thrilled to have you, Indra. Welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Happy to be here.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about.
Happy to be anywhere.
Right? Happy to be
now
on
that
this
I
planet.
think about it.
Just happy to be.
Just be happy.
To be. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm a huge fan of the Enneagram, so I'm super excited to hear about that. And I'm also a really big fan of astrology. I've dabbled in both of them. I'm definitely not an expert, but for those of our guests who may not be familiar with the Enneagram, why don't you just kind of give an overview of what the Enneagram is and how you use it?
So at the simplest of levels, the Enneagram is a psychological typing system, and it helps us to know ourselves better. And in knowing ourselves better, we have better relationships and more compassion. But the thing about it is that it's also a very unique spiritual tool because it helps us to wake up to the moment. It gives us our core triggers and encourages us to come back to the moment and come out of our triggering, out of our mental states into the moment where nothing touches us. And the nine, so Enneagram, it comes from Greek, it means a nine-sided figure. And so there are 9 personality types. And while there are a lot of typing systems, the belief is that these are the 9 types that are naturally in nature, and that the human species as a social species needs the 9 types in order to survive, in order to exist as a culture, because if we all had the same personality, not much would get done. And so we need the variety, and that these are fragrances, these are flavors of the 9 types that are natural in nature.
Yeah. And like Kim and I, if we had the same personality, wouldn't be good.
Yes, absolutely. Well, that's the fact, is that everybody looks each of the 9 types look at life from a different framework, and so they add, someone's going to make it look nice, and someone's going to make it be very efficient, and someone's going to actually get it done and get out of talking, and some of us are going to dream for the future. And we kind of need all of that there is a teaching that says that we have all 9 types in us, but that one of them is at our core. And by understanding which one of them they are, and by understanding its core story, it helps us to get back to the moment and out of the stories.
Yeah. You know what else I was thinking? Because so Kim and I, our birthdays are 2 days apart. So astrologically, we're the same sign. So in that way,
the same year?
No.
Okay.
We're not going to do.
So
I'm much older.
So the relationship between astrology and Enneagram is not a simple one-to-one. It is not based solely on your birth sign, your sun sign. It's much more a complex, and righteously so, because we are complex beings. It's not as simple. I like to say it's not a simple one-to-one. That if you're a Taurus, then you're a 3, and if you're a
Right.
Gemini, then you're a 7. It doesn't work that way. It's a combination. We're actually looking for the weak places, because that is the where the compulsions and the compensation come from. The compensation in our behavior is from the places where, not from our strengths, but from our weaknesses. And so what the types, the Enneagram types, have in common with each other is that they have the same afflictions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one of the things that's really interesting, I think, about the Enneagram that I learned is just how old it is. It's an ancient system of understanding ourselves, that goes way back,
To Pythagoras, right?
it's like backed into the Sufi teaching. So it's super ancient. It's been around for a long, long time. I mean, it only, recently became even talked about in the West. But tell us a little bit, Indra, about the history of the Enneagram, if you can.
Well, this is sort of, Kim, this is sort of an interesting subject, because it has a very mysterious background. It was not out in the public, and while it's said to be a Sufi teaching, the Sufis themselves take no responsibility for it. And so I kind of believe, I kind of go back to I spent a lot of time in the third world. I was an importer for a while, a trader. I brought in items that I sold in wholesale to stores. We had 200 stores at the top. And so I like to think that I go back to Mesopotamia, because I've been in these third world marketplaces all over the world. And while they don't call them by number, they knew in Mesopotamia, with their millions of business clay business receipts, they knew the ones that would buy very slowly and they had to give a lot of time to, that we call 9s. And they knew the ones that the 7s, they wanted to buy very quick. And so they're going to see something and they may not try it on, and boom, they're gone. And they're going to see the 6, they're going to recognize the 6s, which are going to be doubtful about the purchase. I had a 6 buyer one time, and she would test every zipper 40 times. I mean, we're talking a $3 little zip lock. She would buy 12 of them, and every one she'd, that's the 6. The 4 wanted to be told that she was beautiful. The 2s wanted to make sure that they were helping everybody, that, they would help all the other customers. And so I think that these, what I'm saying is that these personality types, these ways of being, these structures, could get realized really easily. And it became that the Enneagram is not only a psychological tool, but it's also sacred geometry. It's also mathematical. It's in nature. It's got a life of its own beyond the teachings that we've given it. And so there were some historical references. There was the Aeneads, which was written in 300 AD, of the positive aspects of the 9 personalities. There was a Egyptian teacher who went around asking people what prevented them from God, and he made a typing system that had 8 points, but it was kind of similar to the Enneagram. There were some references in the 1300s of somebody that made up a chart that looked kind of Enneagram-y. I mean, when you stand in the Muslim world, you see a lot of geometrics. The buildings have geometric shapes, and so it isn't hard for me, who has spent a lot of time there and of course studied the Enneagram. It's really easy to see how there are roots in the Sufi teaching, but we have no modern, we don't really have any historical references other than these few, until Gurdjieff brought it to our attention in the early 1900s. And he was also a very mysterious teacher, and we never knew whether he invented this Enneagram format or whether he got where he got it from.
Yeah, it's like one of those things that it can be very simple on one level, and then once you get into it, this goes more and more and more complex, like so many layers to it. A lot like astrology. that, you can have this very simple, what's your sign and what's your daily horoscope, or you could
Sure.
go so deep
Understand all the
into
houses and
and what's in transit and what's happening here and, what's in
Yeah.
retrograde. And there's just so many levels.
Well, I think that I think you're saying that it has a depth it's simple, and it has depth in terms of that you can spend 50 years studying astrology and still not know it all. But I think the other thing is that they're also on a simple level, is that they're like child's play, and then there's their depth work on a spiritual level that you can take it to an understanding of yourself in the deepest way. That's the ways I like to use them.
So I'm
Yeah.
curious about some. Oh, sorry. Go ahead,
Go
Kim.
ahead. Well, I was just going to say, what I have found interesting in my brief study of the Enneagram. I mean, like you said, I mean, there's so much depth, and I feel like I just have scratched the surface in the time that I've been even aware of it. But, Laura and I were spending a little time on the Enneagram 6 months ago or so.
Mhm.
And we were having this conversation with my son. And in the conversation, what I became aware of is that I was dating a 6, that I had been married to a 6, and that my father is a 6. And in that conversation, I was like, oh my gosh, I have daddy issues that I am trying to work out. I didn't know I had that. So it's just really, really interesting what you can see. And that's that's how it shows up for me. It's just seeing some patterns, it's when I see that all of these really important male relationships that I have this thing in common. It kind of wakes me up to, there's something there. Like there is something for me to explore there. And that's how it shows up for me.
Well, yeah, I think that's patterning is an important term talking about the Enneagram. I'll take it a little further. You could have a 6 wing, so you could actually be dating yourself.
Yeah, there I am.
And interesting with the parents, I had a client here a couple of days ago, and her boyfriend, who wasn't there, we were discussing between a 1 and a 3. And I looked at his chart and I didn't see any 3 in it. But I said, could he have a 3 parent? And she said, oh yeah, he's got a 3 dad that he doesn't get along with. And so what I find is that a lot of people mark themselves as a parent's Enneagram number, that they identify with their parents' Enneagram more than they identify with their own, until they realize that. And so he was playing out 3 because his dad was a 3 and he's trying to impress him, even though they don't talk anymore. But the fact is that at his core, he's a 1.
Yeah.
And there are some similarities between 1 and 3.
Yeah.
And so it can get confused. But the fact is that I never met him, but I didn't see any 3 in his chart. His power was all was 12th house power, and so it's that hesitation that that you see in the 1 that's trying to make sure that it's done right. And so that's what happens a lot, is that we type ourselves as our parent. And of course, dating a parent is, parents type, that's pretty, and marrying, that's pretty normal.
Pretty common.
Yeah, pretty common. Yeah. And it can be pathological, but it also can be it can be that's a place where you work out that energy. It may not be, it's an attraction because you have to let go of, there's something there to let go of, to realize and to let go.
Exactly.
Or to change your perspective about,
Yeah.
or to just, what I like about the Enneagram and the astrology is just a different lens. And so we can kind of get in a story and see things a certain way. And it's just another way to say, well, why don't we look at it this way? It's still the same dynamic, but when you look at it through a different lens, all of a sudden there become, opportunities to shift or change or see it differently, or even, like you said, to have more compassion. Like if that any tool that can bring more compassion for ourselves and in our relationships, I feel like is a valuable tool.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I like to refer to them as longitude and latitude, that while longitude or latitude individually can help locate you, they sure are a lot better together, because then you've got one point rather than a line, a circle of points in longitude or latitude, but the two cross in a place that give you a much better understanding of where you are on the map of life.
Okay, so I'm going to put myself in the hot seat, put you in the hot seat, Indra. So how, if you were meeting me for the first time, how would you discover what my Enneagram type is? Like what would that look like?
Well, I mean, I use a simple test, and I let them decide. It's really not important for me to figure it out. It's important for you to figure
Okay.
it out. But for some people, they will just explode right onto the page as far as what they are. There are phrasing and what's important, and the sixes, anxiety will come, for example, will come out right away, and nines, wanting to be accepted by everybody, and trying to keep harmony will come out right away. So I will stand back and just feel the energy, and then later on I would use, is mental at your core, is anger at your core, or is image at your core? I would kind of go there, and then the thing about the Enneagram, and I assume you know this, but it's an interesting blend of that there are three core instincts. That's anger, emotion, and fear. And while we have all three, one of them is at our core. And then there are three reactions to energy coming toward us. There are those that go outward to it. They're more extroverted. There are those that go inward. They pull back. They're introverted. And there are those that exist in this active neutral place where they observe before they come up with a strategy. And so these three natural reactions and the 3 instincts gives us 9 unique energetic Enneagram vibrational signatures. And so sevens, which 2 of us are sevens here, we're fear outward, and fives are fear inward. And so there's the beginning of a archetype based on this. Which of the instincts is central to you, and how is your energy, outward, inward, or neutral? And so there are many ways like that. The tools that I use in order to try to figure out the core number. And again, I want to state that while I'm a guide to help people, it's not my job to figure it out. I don't want to tell anybody anything. I want to suggest, I want to infer, I want to help them. Like this lady a couple days ago is that I didn't see any 3 with her guy. I never met the guy, so I can't say he's not a 3. But when she tells me, I mean, okay, he could be the son of a 3. He could be a 3 that's the son of a 3. That's possible. But more likely, when she says he's a 3, it's because dad's a 3 and he isn't.
Mm-hmm.
And then how do you pull the astrology piece in?
Well, I go through the chart. I can show I use the strengths and weaknesses of the chart, and so there are certain for the mental types. Saturn and Mars are Saturn and Mercury are the important planets, because fear is an important part of the 5, 6, and 7, the mental types. That's the low side of Saturn, and then the mental type is Mercury, and so we go to this mental type because the Mercury is usually not well placed. It's retrograde. It's cuspy, which means it's at the edge of the planet. At the edge of the house, or perhaps it's with another planet. Perhaps it's debilitated, or it's with another planet that's debilitated. And so in the 5, 6, and 7s, we have a very edgy Mercury and Saturn. In the image types, we have a very edgy Venus and Sun. The Venus is about comparisons and judgments. That's the image type. And then there is a sense of the self being not adequate. That's the Sun reaction. And then in the anger types, the 8, 9, and 1, we look at Mars and Sun, because the Mars is about anger. And so it's really strong in 8s, and it's pretty weak in 9s and 1s. And so I see in 9s and 1s, I see Mars in the 12th house, because it's an ethereal house, and it's really hard to bring that anger out into the physical plane. That's the definition of a 9 and a 1. And so, son of a gun, if it isn't in the 12th house, and this fellow had a Mars 12th house, I think it may have even been retrograde in the 12th house. And so, even before we talk, I thought he was a 1, and then she said that was a possibility. So that's what I'm looking at. What I'm looking for are ways to explain the Enneagram story in astrological terms.
Yeah. One of the things.
Clear?
Yeah. I mean, I'm very practical. So I'm like, okay, I would need a practical example. I mean, I know you've given some examples of that person. Yeah, but for me, it gets clearer when I actually see it, in a practical example.
Sure. It's not that easy to understand. And it's one of these things that it's like, sometimes it's this, and the other time it's like that, if it's the same combination, like 3 and 8 can both be powerful. Sometimes they get confused, but there are some differences in the charts. While the placements, the planet, they have a lot of singleton planets, so that they're really available to them, the energy is available. There are some other subtleties that in one case you might say this is really important, and in another one, the same thing, you might say, well, it isn't so important. And people are saying, well, why? They look like they're the same. But there's just a subtle difference. It's whether it's your intuition or whether it's your experience. Experience is an incredible teacher. Is that, well, why would you go that? I used to say to my teacher, how do you know that? And he says, well, it's experience. That it's such an incredible teacher that you can't overlook that. And it's beyond the book learning, is the experiences, that sometimes the same thing can be like this, and sometimes it's like this. And why? Well, I don't know. It's like dating, going back to the dating, the intuition is who's the right one. The right one may not be the right one may be the right one, but not for long term. It might be about the lessons that need to be learned right now. And another time, the right one may mean, the rest of the life. And how can you tell the difference? Well, you just know, right, ladies?
Or you don't know, and you just decide
Or
day
you
by day.
make a big mistake and learn from that.
Yeah. Or you just decide day by day, instead of, buying into the narrative that, every relationship is lifelong.
I think what I appreciate, I'll just say real quick, is that having structure, like you said, the longitude and the latitude, just having a way to identify where you are on the map, and to get some sense of guidance. I mean, I guess we've always looked to the stars for guidance. We've always looked to nature for guidance. And I think there's something there, that there is a relationship that we have with ourselves, and with the earth. And, Enneagram is a lot about being social and with each other, that is providing structure and guidance for wherever is happening here.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. The reason we connect so well with nature is that nature is who we really are. And that's why we feel so good in nature, because it reminds us of who we are.
Yeah. So I like that at the start you talked about, that your practice and your offering, the gift that you offer, is helping people awaken and understanding how to come back to the moment, and recognizing through the Enneagram and astrology, the triggers that pull us away, and then how we bring ourselves back then to this moment. So talk a little bit more about, that practice, and how you help people in that way.
So at the end of the reading, I say that people say to me at the end of the reading, this is great information, Indra. Now, what do I do with this?
Yeah.
And so what appeared is something I call the 4 doorways to conscious living. So the 4 doorways, the first doorway is learn to observe. And so the idea in the 3-hour reading is to get is to become aware of what your triggers are and what you're playing out in your life, is to observe your own thinking, to observe your own behavior, to observe the behavior and the thinking of other people and your reaction to that behavior and your thinking. And so the idea is to get off the movie screen of your own life into the audience, to watch your own, to watch how you act. And then the second doorway is to let go and release what doesn't serve you. And so I like to, so this quote, letting go involves being aware of a feeling, letting it come up, staying with it, and letting it run its course without wanting to make it different or do anything about it. It means simply to let the feeling be there and to focus on letting out the energy behind it. When letting go, ignore all thoughts. And this is from an incredible book called Letting Go by David Hawkins, who
Oh, I love
was
David Hawkins. Love his work.
Really incredible realized soul, so clear. And
Power versus Force. He wrote that book.
Yeah.
That's
a good book.
Yeah, and many others. I don't know if you've gotten into some of the others, but that's the mere, I think it was his first one. It's the tip of the iceberg. And later on, he wrote some incredible books.
I'm gonna have to look at that more.
Discovering the Presence of God is one. He put six of them, 6 or 8 of them in his series, progressively, starting and then going to the end. One of the Discovering the Presence of God is one of the latest ones. And so the third doorway is to love yourself, and then the fourth doorway is to live in the moment. And so when you're in the moment, then you will love yourself. If you're not loving yourself, you're not in the moment. And so how do we love ourselves? As we let go and release what doesn't serve us. And we spend 95% of our energy on this, letting go, letting go, letting go. And then how do we know what to let go? Well, we learn to observe. We just watch. The life itself will give us the clues as to where the stagnation, where the holding on, where the positionalities are. Anything that you're holding is a position, and these positions need to be released in order to be in the moment. In the moment, there are no positions held. There's just the freedom of what is. And so in order to get there, we have to keep releasing what's holding us from this opportunity.
And you're right. I mean, the first doorway is, what I feel like is the most challenging and pivotal, right? It's that, I loved how you said it too, come off the screen and into the audience. It's like, I have these patterns that I repeat over and over again. And what's so interesting is that I can observe other people's patterns and point them out so easily. And then I have such a challenging time seeing my own. So my work for myself has been, just really becoming very conscious and seeing what's happening, how I'm thinking, the patterns that I repeat over and over and over again. And if I can do that part, then the letting go and releasing and the loving myself and the living in the moment becomes a lot easier. And so often, what I'm observing is me not living in the moment. Worrying about whether or not we're going to have food in 6 months or something, like
you're going to your 6th wing there. For the 7, we don't know what we're thinking until we say it. And so that's just what we're talking about.
Oh, you should definitely have a podcast if you're a 7 then.
My mom always used to say, think about what you think before you speak, right? Like that's impossible. How do you do that? You have to
I don't know what I'm thinking.
Can't tell you until I speak it out.
I learned that. Go ahead.
She could have been a 1, and 1s are digesting everything. By the time they say it, it's so digested, and we're the opposite. As 7s, we don't know. I like to say that the reason I do the readings and the teaching is because the people teach me what I need to learn. That's why we're teaching what we need. What we teach is because we need to learn it, not because we've learned it. If we've learned it, we wouldn't need to teach it.
That's right. agree with that.
I spend a lot of my time teaching people how to allow themselves to have emotions. And because that's what I need, that's like my biggest work.
Yeah, that's
Is
for a 5, that's the emotions is the difficulty. But I just want to just comment on this, is that because you're while you're both in the mental triad, you still have the differences, and this is the reality, is that one has trouble observing and one wants to be able to see it in graphic form, because as soon as I understand it, then I have the power over it. That's the 5 story. And so this is how we're similar ages. Well, the two of you similar ages, I suppose. You live in the same part of the country, but yet you can be so different. Not that those are limiting factors, but the fact is that we all come from different places, and it's like, you take a scene, and one is saying, it's a tall building, and one is saying, look at all that pavement, and another one is saying, it's so many cars, and somebody's saying, look at the signs, and everybody's looking at the same scene, but coming from their own particular place. And when we let go of those stories, when we see through the stories, then we all see the same thing.
Yeah.
yeah. And also appreciate ourselves, and then appreciate the difference, and realize, like you said in the beginning, we need all 9 types. So we don't need a world where everyone is like us. That would not work, So I think a lot of times,
well, the ego may need that.
That's true.
Not the essence. So the thing is, as I say, who you really are. So it's not your personality, you're not your body, you're your essence. And so the essence doesn't need anything. The essence doesn't have a purpose. The essence doesn't have, there's no right or wrong, there's no yes or no, there's no today or yesterday in the essence. It just is right now. And it's very simple, it's not easy to get to, but it's a very simple place to be.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. Well, are you, Indra, are you ready for the lightning round?
Okay, there's no clouds in the sky here. So
get ready.
It may not lighten.
Well, we'll go lightning fast and see what happens. How's that?
Okay.
What rules have you chosen to rebel against on your journey to health?
I probably chose to rebel against all of them.
Yeah.
Actually, my father was a doctor. He was a heart specialist that died of a heart attack. So
that's not funny, but it is ironic.
Well, there's ironic. Yeah, his coffin had the middle initial wrong. I stood there as a 23-year-old with the middle initial wrong, just trying to take in this sacred moment, my last moment with him, and it was this galactic irony that they have the wrong middle initial. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know that I have any rules that I follow. Pretty much, I follow my own rules, particularly about health.
Yeah. So at this moment, what would you say it means to you to be holy?
To be holy means, I would say sacred is the same. I would say just pure, just out of story, just open, just vulnerable, just appreciating, gratitude, blue sky, sunny weather, even when it's cloudy. I think that's what it means to be holy. Holy means to be in the moment. It means to be without story.
Yeah.
To me.
What do you want to say to a listener right now to help them rise up?
To rise up. Well, love yourself. Love yourself. That it's it's not as bad, here's the positive outlook group coming along here, the sevens, it's not as bad as you think, and it's not as good as you think either, it's just to be appreciative of what is, and to take them personally, and to not take them personally. I had a teacher that said that I believe and disbelieve everything, and so I've kind of accepted that. She didn't believe in any isms, and so I believe and disbelieve everything, and that I just flow with the inner. I don't make any decisions with my head. I make them all with my gut, and it's what feels right, rather than what should be right, what I want to do. It's not about what I want to do, it's about what do I feel that I want to do. And it goes down to, what are you going to eat, when and where, and what are you going to eat, that in each moment, to be open in each moment. And so for the listeners out there, just start where you're at, wherever you're at, you can get to where you want to be. I worked with there's a particular chart that I use for in astrology that's a future chart, and I find that even 20s and 30s are already beginning to see where they're going to end up in their life. They're pretty far away from the reality of these particular goals, but goals like being dedicating yourself to the sixth house, which would be physical plane difficulties, or dedicating yourself to expressing yourself through your career, that it may be something that they can understand it as a reality, as a goal of theirs, even though they may be 30 or 40 years away from it being realized. And so you're always in that potentiality, that what you want can come to you right now. So it's a long journey. You're always doing the best that you can, even if it doesn't look very good, and it has highs and lows, and God bless the highs and the lows.
Yeah.
So
it's really what makes the life very rich. I mean, we don't appreciate the lows, we don't appreciate the dark, but it certainly does add to the depth of a life to really hold space for both.
Absolutely. That's where we learn. We don't learn from the high side, we learn from the low side, and we need to, every growth spurt we've had has come from some form of tragedy, or some sort of something that felt like a tragedy. We may laugh at it years later, but it seems to be the way things are.
Yeah,
And I'm
the
happy
gifts
with
in
that
the
system. Yeah, I'm happy with that system. I don't need it to be any different than it is. I don't need, I mean, I can maybe come up with some things that I should have done differently or could have done differently, but in the end, you make up for it in the moment. By how completely you're in the moment is how completely you are alive, if that's the issue.
Well, I want to honor your journey as a man, and say how beautiful it
Okay,
is
thank you.
to see a man who is open-hearted, vulnerable, and seeking that out and supporting others in doing that. And in this lifetime, I don't know what it's like to be a man, but I can honor that probably has not always been easy. And so I just want to say,
Well, thank you.
I appreciate it. Appreciate you.
I accept that for all men, not just me, but for all men.
Yes.
And all future men and all past men. We may as well cover all the bases.
Yeah.
Yes.
All the boys. Let's hear it for the boys.
Let's hear it for the boys. Oh, okay.
And Andrew, you have a gift to our listeners. Do you want to tell them
Yes.
about that?
Absolutely. So this is a free gift for anyone. If they would like to explore the Enneagram, I will send you a Enneagram test. It's a simple paragraph test, 5 or 10 minutes. And for most of you, you'll either get your number, or you'll get a range of your numbers. It'll simplify it. It's very easy to do. You just send me an email and I'll send you the test. And the second offer is that I'll send you your Vedic sidereal astrology chart. It's not a reading. I'll send you the chart, and I'll send you a little bit of information so that you can begin to understand how to read it, or how to understand, because it looks a little different. It's not circular. and I need 3 pieces of information for that. I need your birth time, your birth date, and your birthplace. So you can email me that, and I will send you the chart back within a day or two. If anybody has any questions or would like to dialogue, I'm open to that. I'm easy to reach at my email. You check out the website if you're interested in that, IndraRinzler.com. The email, Indra Rinzler, all one word, @gmail.com. And I offer life readings. I offer location astrology readings, the power of place. If you're
I
not
like that
sure
idea.
about where you're at and where you should be at, I go through that. And if anybody's interested in any of those, I'm happy to connect.
Well, thank you
Awesome.
so much.
Yeah, I'm really appreciative. This has been a great conversation, and we appreciate you coming on the Rebellion.
Okay, yeah, thanks. Thanks for being rebellious. We